I survived the night in the Red House. I grew up in a small town where everyone knew everyone, and urban legends were whispered among kids like secrets. The most notorious legend was about the Red House. It was an old, abandoned mansion on the outskirts of town, hidden deep in the woods. They said no one who spent a night there ever came out the same. The ones who did come back weren't really themselves anymore. Like any naive teenager, I thought it was all BS. My friends dared me to spend the night there for $100. And being cocky, I took the bet. I packed a flashlight, a sleeping bag, and a few snacks, figuring it would be a breeze. I headed out just before sundown, following the narrow path through the woods. The deeper I went, the quieter it became. The wind seemed to stop, the birds went silent, and even the crunching of leaves under my feet faded into an eerie stillness. Then I saw it. The Red House. It was even worse than the stories made it out to be. It wasn't just abandoned. It looked like something had been actively trying to tear it apart. The windows were shattered, the paint was chipped, and the door hung loosely on its hinges. The air around it felt heavy, almost suffocating. But I shook off the unease and forced myself inside. The interior was worse. The walls were smeared with something dark and dry, something that looked a lot like blood. The floors creaked with every step, and there was this foul stench, like something had died in there and rotted away years ago. But still, I shrugged it off. This was all part of the legend, right? I set up camp in the main living room, pulling out my sleeping bag and sitting down. As the sun went down, the house grew colder and darker. I turned on my flashlight, but it barely cut through the oppressive blackness that seemed to swallow the room. That's when I heard it. The sound of footsteps upstairs. "Hello?" I called out, hoping it was just my imagination. No response. I heard them again. Slow, deliberate, like someone was pacing back and forth. My heart started racing. I knew I was alone. There was no way anyone else could be out here. I hadn't told anyone exactly when I was coming. And yet, those footsteps. I grabbed my flashlight and crept toward the staircase. It was narrow and rickety, each step groaning under my weight. As I reached the top, the footsteps stopped. Dead silence. I scanned the hallway with my light, but nothing was there. No one. I turned to head back downstairs, and that's when I saw it. Out of the corner of my eye, something darting across the hallway. Too fast to make out any details, but it was human-shaped. I froze, my mind racing. This wasn't part of the plan. This wasn't part of the legend. Was there someone else here? I forced myself to move. I made it halfway down the stairs when I felt it. Something cold and slimy grabbing my ankle. I screamed, yanking my leg free, stumbling and falling down the rest of the steps. My flashlight flew from my hand and shattered on the floor, plunging me into total darkness. Panicking, I scrambled to my feet and grabbed my phone. The dim light from the screen illuminated just enough to see something moving at the top of the stairs. It wasn't human. It was crawling, its limbs twisted and bent in unnatural ways, like it had been broken and put back together wrong. Its eyes locked onto mine, glowing faintly in the dark. I backed up, my heart pounding so hard I thought it would burst out of my chest. The thing let out this guttural, inhuman growl and started crawling down the stairs faster than anything should be able to move. I bolted for the door, but the moment I grabbed the handle, it slammed shut on its own. I yanked and pulled, but it wouldn't budge. The thing was almost at the bottom of the stairs now, and I could hear its grotesque breathing, wet, raspy, and impossibly close. Desperate, I ran to the nearest window and threw myself against it, smashing through the glass. I felt shards tear into my skin as I tumbled outside. I didn't stop. I kept running, ignoring the blood, ignoring the pain, as that thing howled behind me. I didn't stop running until I made it to the edge of the woods, where the light from the town began to peek through the trees. Only then did I dare to look back. The Red House stood there, silent and empty, as if nothing had ever happened. But as I looked closer, I saw it. In the broken window, something was watching me. Its glowing eyes burned into mine, and I knew, whatever it wasn't done with me. I never went back. And to this day, I swear something followed me out of that house. Sometimes in the dead of night, I still hear those wet, raspy breaths just outside my bedroom door.